Now is the right time to talk about You Can Choose. You Can Choose is all about empowerment. You Can Choose is about you having the power, you having the control, you having the ability to create the world you want to live in. And you can't count on somebody else, whether it's Washington, D.C. or local government, to do anything for you, or anybody do anything for you. It's really about you doing it. And You Can Choose professes that, and it expands on that and shows people how they can make a difference. We made a difference in our lives, how we went from almost bankruptcy to having a very successful sale of our company and changing our life completely. So we've been able to do it, realizing that it's not outside, it's inside that makes a difference. And that's what we're all about.
Yeah, it was really getting to the point where we were so low in the bucket that something had to change. And so we pretty much were ready to just throw off whatever assumptions and so forth, beliefs and such that we had, to say, we got to start fresh. And that's when we really took a step back and said, you know, what is it we're thinking, and maybe the way we're thinking isn't working for us because we clearly are not in a good place. And so it really was almost like a clear the decks mentality that we had to start to relearn things step by step. We don't realize how much of it is controlled or directed by assumptions that we make or beliefs we make about things that we may have just picked up and not even realize we picked them up. It's only through a quiet, thoughtful, who am I, what am I process that you really start to uncover some of the things that, wow, I believe that. I mean, that's truly the experience that we've had over the last year or two, that we've really started to pay attention to those. There's probably several aha moments along the way, truly.
Yeah, but the big one really was when we were just about bankrupt. We started a company actually right back here in our backyard about 13 years ago, and it was a software company, and we were trying to figure out, you know, what direction to go, and all of a sudden we had this great opportunity to build software for a couple of folks that were in the vending industry. So they wanted to change the vending business by, instead of putting in vending machines, they wanted to put it in a little store, a little micro market. It was a fantastic idea. We sold thousands of these things. We went from running, you know, a shop in our backyard here to hiring, you know, 15, 20 people. So we were, you know, rolling, and everything was great. We had thousands of these micro markets throughout the United States and Canada. And then all of a sudden, our biggest customer sued us. So we went from cruising and doing just fine to, you know, oh my gosh, what do we do next? And I was struggling with depression throughout this whole time just because of the business I was in. And now, in retrospect, because of the perspective I had on myself and everything, I saw myself as a victim. And the guy that sued us was able to take advantage of that because he was kind of a bully, and he was the bully and I was the victim. So we played the perfect roles, now that I understand how it works. So we got sued, and we're trying to figure out where we can go from this. We were pretty desperate, right? We're going to fire all of our employees, lose the other customers that we had. And then I started reading, right? So I started to figuring out, well, I got to do something. So I started reading. In the middle of the
night when you couldn't sleep, you were up reading for hours.
Hours and hours and hours trying to read. So I need some help here. So I started reading about the power of your mind, right? So I started understanding what it is about how we create our reality and how it all works. Came across a handful of books that really made it clear to me. And what became clear to me is that really two fundamental things. One is your thoughts matter. And the most important thing is you can choose your thoughts. So if your thoughts matter, which means to me that what I think about has an impact on everything about my life, right? Every single thing about my life is impacted by what I think about. And I can choose what I think about. It's like, wow, all of a sudden I'm not a victim. I can't be a victim anymore because I have the choice. I have the ability to make it happen. Right. So all of a sudden I went from not being a victim anymore to being empowered. It's like, wow, I haven't been this empowered my whole life because I'd suffered from depression. My mom killed herself based on depression. So I've grown up on that, and that's just kind of the way that we were raised. And she doesn't know anything about the depression piece. She couldn't quite relate.
Nope, didn't make any sense to me.
But I was all of a sudden able to get beyond that.
I did not come from a family or had any experience with depression, so it was really an interesting experience for me to see this person who just couldn't do things, yet I saw all the skill set and talent that he had, but it just wouldn't quite get translated. It was like there were these hurdles, these invisible hurdles that he had to get past, but I couldn't see them. I had no clue, and he certainly couldn't see them. But in reading some of these books, he was able to see himself in a different way. And I remember he came to me one day and he said, I found something that I can't find fault with. And Peter is really good. In fact, one of the first things we ever did when we were dating is we went to see a movie, and afterwards he recited chapter and verse of how this movie couldn't have, or this story couldn't have occurred because of this or that, and I thought, I am never going to go see a movie with you. It just is not worth it. This is entertainment. I don't need to see the logic and everything. And so when he said that to me, it's like, okay, so maybe now I need to start paying attention to what he's talking about. And it was really from that point forward that I thought, okay, this is all theoretical, but does it really work? So I then started, in these morning walks I take with the dog, started to play with stoplights and light signal. Traffic is relatively quiet in the morning, you don't have a lot of cars. I would just, in my mind, say, okay, I want the signals to be green, or I want the traffic to be gone. And it doesn't happen every single time, but boy, oh boy, it's a whole lot different. It's kind of like going through a parking lot when you can't find a space and you just say, there's something out there. You just breathe in and there's one that appears. Somebody backs out as you're coming in, so there's no possible way for somebody else to take that spot. It's your place. So if you start to expand that and think beyond the parking places, or if the light's going to change when you get to it, to wow, I would like to do this in my life, and you really start to align yourself with those things. That's really where you start to create your future versus reacting and having it happen to you. And I think that's really the touchstone that Peter really hit when he started to think seriously about why things had gotten to the point where they were. And it's really a product of our thoughts, a result of our thoughts.
And it works. Now I don't have depression anymore. What else can I do? So I started reading and continue to read about this stuff and realized that I can change where we were. We were just about to have to go bankrupt and fire all our employees and lay off everybody and all that kind of stuff. And I said, no, well, let's change this different. So a few months before that, while I was still in this funk, we tried to sell the company, right? We went around, I hired an investment banker to take the company and let's go see if we can sell it. So we went and visited dozens of prospective of suitors, and everybody kept saying, no, 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 we're not interested. Probably the lawsuit didn't help, right? And then once I started having this mindset of, wait, my thoughts matter, I started thinking more positively about myself and where I fit in the world. And I remember very specifically, at 7 o'clock in the morning, I was walking with the dog, and I says, oh, I want to call this guy. So I picked up my phone, I called one of the CEOs of the companies that 2 months ago said no. I said, hey, this is Peter. I'd like to get together and talk again. And he says, sure, love to get together with you. He says, this is a great time. We just made an acquisition with somebody else. Why don't you come on up and talk to us? We've been thinking about you. And I go, what? Just a couple of months ago, the answer was no, not even interested. Go away. We got our own business line. We don't really care. And now all of a sudden I pick up the phone and I call him and talk to him. And I was like, well, what changed, right? The market hadn't changed. There was nothing different about the market. Our value of the company, well, we got the results of the lawsuit, so we were worth even less, right? So what changed? And what changed was me, right? I changed myself. I changed my view of where I fit in the world. And as a result, everything else changed. So all of a sudden this guy says, yeah, come on up. So we went up there, we made the deal, and everything worked out super well for us. That's why we're here today, because everything worked out super well for us. So from that point on, it was like, oh my gosh, not only have I read things that make so much sense to me, but I've been able to put it into practice. I've been able to actually use it and change how my world works, or how my world looks to me based on how I think. It's like, oh my gosh, this is great. So that was our big thing. We have a book out there called You Can Choose. It's available on Amazon and iBooks. And it's a series of relatively short chapters that talk about some of the principles that we've grown to love and now we live by.
Let's imagine that people are watching this from anywhere and they just want the quick tutorial on how to kind of change their thoughts and beliefs. What's a little snippet you can give them to kind of get started?
3 things. So first of all, unless you want to go.
No, go ahead.
So 3 things. So first of all, realize you can choose. That's the number one thing. Most people don't realize that they have the power. They have the authority, they have the right, they have the privilege, they have everything to make that choice.
Yep.
So they can choose. And secondly, purposefully choose. So think about what you think about. That's so easy and so cliche, but we all have these brilliant brains, these brilliant minds that are working all the time, thinking and analyzing and talking and all that stuff. What is it saying? Is it saying things that are helpful for you, or is it saying things that are not so helpful for you?
And when I say helpful, when he says helpful, things that are supportive of you, not things that are, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not educated enough. That's irrelevant. It's what you think about yourself from a positive perspective. That's the power of it, the positive power. The negative power goes the other way. So if you have negative thoughts all the time about yourself, well, guess what? That's what your life's going to be like. It's really a matter of making that choice to shift thinking so that it's proactive for you.
Very much so. And then the third thing, what I'll end up with, is know what you want. Because you can't get it if you don't know what it is. So if you know what it is, you realize you can get it, and you focus on it, you can achieve it.
Yeah. You Can Choose is really something that's grown out of some pretty, let's say, painful, powerful lessons that we had when we were working with our company, when we started. You want to add anything?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.